Joining us now is Tara Palmeri. She's a White House correspondent for Politico and CBSN political contributor. Always good to see you, Tara. What do you make of today's revelation and the White House deciding not to make documents and information related to Flynn's foreign dealings available?
I think that today's revelation perhaps gives a little bit more clarity to why National Security Advisor Flynn decided that he would want immunity to testify last month. So I think that we're getting some more information about his mindset. He may have been aware at the time that he did commit a crime and therefore needed immunity to proceed with the actual hearing. It also just brings up the stink of Russia. It's been about a week without Russia headlines, and of course we're starting off on a Tuesday before the 100 days with the one thing that really has been stinking up the Trump administration.
You mentioned that we're approaching the 100 days, and this stink, I think, is what you said. The way that the White House has handled Flynn would be one thing. Has that sort of created more problems and more of that stink rather than giving people answers and some closure?
I don't see why they wouldn't just give the details over to the committee. By evading the process, you're creating another round of headlines. You know, stories about the White House refusing to cooperate on investigations into relationships between anyone in the cabinet and Russia. It just creates more bad PR, and it would probably just have been easier if they had really passed on the details. Maybe they think, oh, we severed ties with Flynn, why does this keep coming up? But at the end of the day, the Russia investigation is not over, and we're going to keep hearing about this, and we may even have more revelations about Flynn's entanglements with Russia, which, like I said, may explain why he asked for immunity last month to testify.
Now, meanwhile, the president is sending out some hints. He's saying he's not changing his position on the border wall, saying it must be funded as part of this government budget agreement. However, all indications are that he's backed away from that demand and rather is insisting on border security more generally. Is the White House just like bowing to pressure from Capitol Hill here? What's the real story? Because for the president, it would seem as if it's yet another campaign promise that he has not been able to deliver on in his first 100 days.
This is part of the White House's strategy to start the negotiation from an extreme and work their way over. Also, Trump said this on background to a bunch of conservative reporters, not expecting it to come out the way that it did. And I think what you're hearing from Spicer saying that he's sticking to the border wall, that's his way of showing his base that he's living up to his pledge of 100 days, before 100 days of getting money for a border wall. But then at the end of the day, he can say it was the dysfunction of Washington, which was why he wasn't able to get the money right away. At the end of the day, the White House is now saying that they accept that it will likely be money for a fence or other types of border protection, and then in the fall they'll request actual funds for a border wall. But there has been a general acceptance privately, while publicly they're going to say that they wanted the wall and Congress said no.
One of the other big agenda issues here, President Trump also expected to unveil his administration's tax plan on Wednesday, reportedly including slashing the corporate tax from 35% to 15%. We're already starting to hear rumblings right now from both Republicans and Democrats in Congress. What is sort of that initial fallout right now?
When I spoke to Republican leadership this morning, they seem to say 15% is a starting point and is likely unrealistic because it would make the budget, the federal debt, grow by obviously not collecting as many taxes. So they see more realistically something along the lines of 20%, but this is just another example of the Trump administration starting from an extreme and working their way over. This is Trump's way of doing deals. As a businessman, as a salesperson, it's part of the art of the deal. You start at one hard line and then you realize that you have to move it over. I just think the thing that we're learning now is that Trump really doesn't have hard lines and he's more about winning and striking a deal. So we may see him having to back down a bit, but at the end of the day, his foil is Congress and the dysfunction of Washington if he doesn't get exactly what he promised the base.
But it could not have gone over well that in the midst of all the discussions of the budget and trying to avoid a shutdown on Friday, here he's going to unveil the tax plan and this cut that seems unrealistic.
Right, but the tax plan, he's only revealing broad strokes and he's just laying it out, but without actual bill language or legislation, so that sort of protects him in a way, and it just creates another day of news stories that create the impression that there's action, 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 sort of like what you saw in the beginning of his term where he just kept unrolling executive orders. There's really, for Trump, it's all about optics. So to seem like they're working hard and they recognize this 100-day mark, they recognize the promises, and if they say, we're trying, we're doing this for you, they think that that satisfies the base enough.
And you talk about satisfying the base. There was a poll over the weekend by the Washington Post which found that Donald Trump's base does actually support what he is doing. However, he is yet to expand that, which could be crucial for a president who needs to convince people in Congress to do what he says. And as you say, maybe it's his negotiation strategy. He comes out with a hard line, build a wall, Mexico will pay for it, repeal and replace Obamacare on the campaign trail. It got him into the presidency, but yet that has yet to be delivered. So at some point, does President Trump's words, his promises, start to lose credibility among Americans?
I think it's only a matter of time, and that's why you're seeing the lower approval ratings. He obviously has a 30% group of people in America who stand by him through thick and thin and think that he's learning on the job. That's what we often hear in our reporting and just from talking to people who are supporters. But there are others who were maybe on the fence, maybe voted for him because they just didn't, agree with Hillary Clinton and her policies, or like many voters had said, they just didn't like her. And I think those people, as they see Trump's positions flip-flopping and not too much movement legislatively, they're going to start to wonder if he can really be a good executive and work with a Congress that is both controlled by Republicans in the House and Senate. There really is not an excuse for this stalemate anymore. There isn't Democratic obstruction to the point where they say it is. And they're going to want to see more results, especially people who were, not diehard Trump fans. And there's probably, he needs at least 20% more of them if he wants to win re-election.
Tara Palmeri, White House correspondent for Politico, also a CBSN political contributor. Thank you, Tara.
Thanks, Tara.
Thank you.